Hi everyone, today we'll be discussing the answers for revision given for Unit 3 last Sunday. Now, first question that we will be discussing is this. Living things, what do they do so that their own kind will continue to exist? So if you turn to your textbook to page 50, you will find the answer. So living things, they reproduce, right? They reproduce in order their own kind to continue exist. Okay, same goes to plant requires to reproduce so that they do not go extinct. All right, so to the second question is stages of reproduction of flowering plant. So in page 51 you can find the answer. So what they do is first pollination, then after pollination is fertilization. Okay, fertilization. Okay, then after fertilization, what happen is seed production. Okay, seed production. Right, so there are 5 stages in total. Then after seed production, it will go to they will go to the next process, which is seed dispersal. All right, seed dispersal. Then after seed dispersal, okay, what happened is that there is germination. Okay, germination will happen. All right, so this is the process or the stages of reproduction of flowering plants. Now moving to the third question. Okay, third question, you can find your answers in page 52 of your textbook. All right, so there is the male part and the female part, what do you call it, of the flowers. Okay, so the male part of the flower, we call it a stamen. Okay, stamen, stamen. So this is the male part of the flower. Okay, stamen, yeah. And then moving on to the next question, is question number 4. So which part of the plant is a thick stalk which holds up the anther? Okay, that part we call it the filament. Okay, filament. So how do you spell filament? It's Filament. Okay, filament. Then moving on to the fifth question. Okay, the fifth question is which part contains the pollen grains? Okay, the part that contains the pollen grain, we call it the anther. Okay, you can find your answers in page 52 and 53 of your textbook. All right, now moving on to the next question, question number 6. So which part of the flower is a long stalk which holds up the stigma? All right, so the part that holds up the stigma, okay, this is question number 6, yeah, is the style. How do you spell the style? It's Style. Moving on to question number 7. So what is a fine powder that made up of small pollen grains? Okay, a fine powder, we call it pollen. All right, Pollen, pollen. Okay, you can find your answers in page 52 of your textbook. Okay, so next question, question number 8. So chestnut are dry and what type of fruit? Okay, first of all, we need to identify what is a chestnut. All right, so a chestnut, you can see here. So this is a chestnut. Usually we can find it roasted and edible. Okay, so chestnut is dry, it's non-fleshy. Right, non-fleshy, and it is an edible fruit, means you can eat it. Edible fruit 可以吃的。 Now moving on to question number 9. Okay, so after fertilization, the ovary develops into a what? And the ovule develop into a what? Okay, now you can find fertilization questions and answer starting from page 63 of your textbook. Okay, so what is the answer? Question number 9. So after fertilization, ovary will develop into a fruit, right? To a fruit, and the fruit usually holds the seed, so the ovules will develop into seed so that they can continue to reproduce. Alright, now question number 10. What is the scattering of seeds from the parent plant? Okay, what is the scattering of seed in the parent plant? Alright, so this answer we can actually find in page 69 of your textbook. Now, in page 69, it's a topic where we talk about seed dispersal. Okay, so seed dispersal is scattering of its seed from the parent plant. Alright, so the answer is seed dispersal. Alright, now moving on to question number 11. So 11 is, what fruit is juicy, fleshy, but it is inedible, means you cannot eat it. Okay, so this fruit is a holy fruit. Okay, holy fruit looks like this. Okay, the fruit is red in color. Alright, it's fleshy. You can see here, it's fleshy. Okay, it's juicy, but you cannot eat it. Okay, so you call it a holy fruit. Okay, this is how you spell it, holy fruit. Now question number 12, you talk about the seed of a rubber tree are dispersed by what of the fruit? Okay, so rubber tree dispersal, the answer you can actually find in your textbook as well. So it is in page 80, not page 80, sorry. You can find it in page 79. Okay, so rubber tree disperse their seed by explosion. Alright, by explosion of the fruit. Okay, so moving on to question number 13. Okay, some flowering plants can reproduce from plants parts such as what? Stems and what? Okay, so some flowering plant, they can reproduce from plants such as, first of all, their leaves. Alright, so some plants can reproduce from their leaves, means they can have small little baby plants on its leaves. Okay, so first answer is leaves. Yeah, okay, so leaves they can reproduce, stems they can reproduce. Okay, and then the other way of reproducing for flowering plants is through their roots. Okay, it's through their roots. Okay, so different type of plants have different ways of reproducing. Okay, see if you can find some info from your textbook. Remember there is okay, so if you have your textbook with me, you can go to page 83. Alright, page 83, you can find more information. Okay, now in in question number 14, so there is two type of non-flowering plant which reproduces spores for reproduction. Alright, So what type of plant is it? Okay, you can search it. First of all, ferns. Okay, ferns reproduce by producing spores. Besides fern, there is also moss. Okay, moss also reproduce spores in order to reproduce. All right. So the answer is fern and spores. What not spores? And what do you call it? Moss. Okay, you call it mosses because a lot lah. Okay. Now moving on to our true and false question. Okay. So first question: the male and female parts of a flowering plant are in the same flower. Alright, so you can go to page 54 of your textbook, which you can find the answer. Now, most of the plants, right, the male part and the female part are not of the same flower. Alright, not all of them are from the same flower. So your answer is false. For the first question, your answer is false. Yeah. Okay. Now, the plants that have. Okay, moving on to the second question. Adult plants produce flowers when the conditions are right. Okay, so in our previous video also we talked about this, where so the answer is true. Alright. So adult plant will produce flowers when the conditions are right. For example, a papaya plant. Papaya plant will only produce flower when it is old enough or adult, when it transforms into an adult plant. Now moving on to the third question. Some flowering plants bears flowers only once in their lives, such as papaya tree. The answer is false, alright? Because papaya plants flowers when their conditions are right, okay, not once in a lifetime. Yeah. So question number 4. Flowers pollinated by insects usually have colorful petals and are scented. Okay, is it correct? Yes, it is correct. All right. So if you look at the video that I've shared with you guys last week, okay, you can easily find the answers there. But let's say if you want to find more answers or more accurate answer, you can go to page 59 of your textbook. All right. So why is it colorful and it is scented? Because it is used to attract the insects. All right. So rice flowers are pollinated by insects. All right. So the answer is false. Okay, why is it false? Because rice flowers are dull in color and it is not scented. Okay, it is pollinated by wind dispersal. All right, so it disperses in the wind to be pollinated lah. Okay. Now question number 6. Seeds dispersed by water are usually able to float. All right, so the answer is true. Okay, they float because they need to find more ground so that they can grow their roots in. Now, question number 7. The seeds of a balsam plant are dispersed by animals. Okay, so is it dispersed by animals? Okay, let us look at what is a balsam plant. Yeah. Okay, do I have it here now? Okay, so balsam plant. Now, balsam plant dispersed by explosion. Okay, so how does a balsam plant look like? Okay, let us check it out. Yeah, search web. Okay, so balsam plant looks like this. Alright, balsam plant looks like this. Okay, but let us see how does the seed looks like. Balsam plant seed. Okay. Okay, so their seed looks like this. Okay, and they reproduce. But I mean, their seed dispersed by explosion. Okay, now moving on to our next question. So the answer is false, yeah, not by animals. Okay, not by animals. Now, question number 8. The fruits dispersed by animal have hooks that cling onto their fur. So, is it correct? Yes, it is correct. Okay, it clings onto their fur to travel to different places. Okay, you can find more answers in page 76 of your textbook. Alright, page 76 of a textbook. Now, moving on to part C of your revision. So you need to identify the few parts of the flower. So part A, what is it called? Part A, we call it the style. Okay, so this is how you spell it, the style. Part B, okay, it's the petal of the plant. Okay, petal, P-E-T-A-L. Now, part C, where is part C? Part C is within the style. Okay, it's within the style here. So, what is part C called? Part C is called the stigma. Okay, part C is called the stigma. Okay, and part D, we call it the anther. And part E, we call it the filament. Okay, so C, D, E. Okay, filament, yeah. Now, moving on to the part D, number the stages of development of fruit in order. Okay, so first what happens? Okay, the petal and stamen of the flower start to wither and drop off. Okay, so this is the first stage. Okay, and the second stage happen is the ovary. Now the ovary will develop into a fruit while the ovule develop into a seed. Then a fully developed fruit with seed is formed. Okay, so last step is the fruit ripens. Now here, okay, let us put it into a good alignment. Right, so let's go through again. So the stages of development of fruit in order is the petal and stamen of the flower start to wither and drop off. And then after that, the ovary develops into a fruit while the ovules develop into the seed. So a fully developed fruit with seed is formed, and the last part is the fruit ripens. Okay, now for part E of our question, we need to complete the table with the correct method of dispersal of each seed or fruit. Okay, so saga fruit, okay, how is it dispersed? So let us see. How does a saga seed look like? Okay, so this is a saga seed. Alright, so it is dispersed by explosion. Okay, so the first one, saga, is explosion. Alright, and then dandelion. So how does a dandelion look like? So this is dandelion look like. So in the video last week also, you can see dandelion is dispersed by the wind. Alright, oops, W-I-N-D. Now, how about cherry? Cherry is a fruit red in color. Okay, it is juicy, so that it can attract animal to eat it. Alright, so answer, it's obviously animals. Alright, coconut disperse its fruit by water. Okay, it floats on the water to go to another place so that it can grow its roots. Alright, then question number 5 is maple. How does it disperse its fruit or its seed? Okay, let us see. So maple is by wind. Alright, so the design of its seed is so that it can flow with the wind. Okay, So maple, question number 5, is by wind. Okay, lotus, okay, is by water. Okay, because it's a plant that lives in water. Yeah. Okay, and then question number 7, balsam, okay, is by explosion. Okay, explosion, we talked about it just now. And then the last question is mimosa plant. Okay, so mimosa plant, do we have it here? Okay, mimosa plant, it has hooks. All right, so it has thorn hooks so that it can hook onto the animals. All right, so last question is animals. All right, so there you go. So these are all the answers for your exercise. So don't forget, if you haven't submit your work, please submit it back to your teachers. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.